Right, what have we got for this week? Well, as California threatens to remove alleged sick people from their homes into detention centres. Sounds all very FEMA to me, that. And then we have the state of Washington is training geese to attack non-compliant golfers on a stay-at-home policy. You know, if ever there was a social distancing sport, golfing is it. And then a professor researching COVID-19 is found dead and called suicide, which is a marked change as all other deaths are now marked as the coronavirus. A woman arrested for cutting people's hair, another arrested for doing nails in her home. Predictably, New York working with Gates on mandatory child vaccines for the state. And then we have Robert David Steele saying pedophilia, which says child love, has nothing to do with child abuse, unquote. And then you have the Chicago mayor stating anyone not staying at home, we will, quote, we will shut you down, we will cite you, and if we need, we will arrest you and take you to jail, period, unquote. And yet I'm the focus of the problem, it seems, to the recently addressed people and who they are connected to. And no wonder this planet's in a mess. It's not about me. It's about the lack of focus. I'm just the easy target, you see, and therein lies the problem. And then we have other reports about the hospitals are getting $13,000 for reporting a COVID-19 case, even if it was a heart attack, and $39,000 if you're on a ventilator. All about the money. And some people still think that we're ready for the trust fund release. Not in my book, we're not. And that is my opinion. But that is not my choice. That lies solely with the trustee only. But until money no longer becomes the latest god and must have, and the propensity to earn it at all costs, then the reality is the trust funds will always be wasted. And the desire for money supersedes all morals, values, virtues, and honour, it appears to me. And the question remains on file largely unanswered. But are the people and the desire for money at all costs the real virus? This next item was something I warned about first in Cosmic Voice and was dismissed by many as not possible. Remember me talking about the caliphate. And in light of the intel last week of Macron installed as world leader for this, when it was allegedly going to be Mr. Trump, and a ceremony to take place in Russia to announce it, but the Pope proclaimed Macron in a recent announcement. Now this report is from last year, but the date is now coming closer to fruition, and why I put this in this week. In a renewed and enthusiastic endorsement of globalism, Pope Francis has announced he is hosting an initiative for a global pact to create a new humanism. The global event set to take place at the Vatican on May the 14th, 2020 is themed Reinventing the Global Education Alliance. And according to a Vatican statement that was issued in September of last year, the Pope is inviting representatives of the main religions, international organisations and various humanitarian institutions, and take that with a pinch of salt, as well as key figures from the world of politics, economics and academia, prominent athletes, scientists and sociologists, all to sign a global pact on education, so as to hand on to younger generations a united and fraternal, there's the brotherhood, common home. In a typically secular message or untypical secular message containing only one throwaway reference to the Lord, you all know who he was, Pope Francis called on people to capitalise on our best energies. Members of THI will know exactly what that means or the hidden meaning of it, and to be proactive in opening education to a long-term vision unfettered by the status quo. This, he said, will result in men and women who are open, responsible, prepared to listen, dialogue and reflect with others, and capable of weaving relationships with families, between generations and with civil society, and thus to create a new humanism. Sounds all so nice. But their version of open is the data mining program called open source. He then went on to quote Hillary Clinton, of all people. "It takes a village to raise a child," she said. Pope Francis asserted the need to create an, quote, educational village in which all people, according to their respective roles, share the task of forming a network of open human relations. Ask why he put an emphasis on the word human. Is he telling you there are non-humans? Is humanism a euphemism for transhumanism? And is this the rise of the robots? But the things arising from this in your face now is a public global government, a public global religion, and a public centralisation of power. Why do I say public? Because they have had a one world government for a long, long time. There was only ever one religion, Hebrew Anunnaki. All the rest are subsidiaries and divide and conquer programs. And by decentralizing, which is what they warned you of via the Bitcoin program, is them centralizing all power to an even fewer numbers. That's the gist of it. Education, to those new to our show, means training of animals. Look it up yourself. So that tells you right there their full intentions. So clearly they are still planning our demise in some quarters, and what our response is the key. We in this group have made giant strides. Many of you. But then a plethora of ridiculous comments, suggestions and wild allegations surface now and again in our group, and it did again this week. And that allows me an opportunity to overview it all and see where we are. and answer some questions for further clarity of the situation as well, for those who doubt and those who are new to our show. And that will be later in the show.